Daniel, you asked me about the transition from being a country boy and from a small community, and then all at once at age 19 being thrust into the big leagues, and you're going to all the major cities in America, Chicago, New York, and St. Louis, and San Francisco, and all over, and the transition that was there. I don't think there's anything that prepares you really to understand what you're going to have to go through in making that transition to the big leagues. Except I had a good background in I had great parents and very supportive parents, and they built within me a system of that ethics based on the Bible. And I think this is the best survival tools that you can have is to have good religious training and from your youth up, and uh, and so even though you don't know what you're going to face, uh, you already have a foundation in which to deal with the world. But I think the early part of my career is such a shock. You go from this into a different culture in a different world that I think my tendency the first 10 years of my career was to isolate myself more. I did ask the ball clubs for permission to worship on Sunday, and I knew I couldn't survive the game unless I had this input from Christians all the time and was able to worship God. And so I had contacts all over the country, everywhere I would go, in New York or whatever, Christians. That was my survival, and that was my really contact. But but the baseball world was such a shocking thing, I guess, morally and in many ways, that I kind of tended to become isolationist for my self protection and too much. Uh, and it took me 10 years to learn how to start relating, to this world, and how to be a good influence among all kinds of people. Because a lot of people don't realize I would get depressed even going to spring training because I'd be around godly people all winter and teaching classes and things, and go to spring training and walk in the clubhouse, and I'm going to hear all this language, this ungodly language and cursing and all of that, and be thrust into this world, and I would kind of get depressed before I go to spring training because of that. But then you learn how to deal with it, and you learn how to mix, and you learn how to relate to the players, and you learn how to relate to their joys and sorrows, and so to me the Bible gives you all kinds of techniques in order to how to win people over and how to relate to them and have an influence on them. And so it just takes a good while to do that without compromise, without compromising your convictions and compromising your faith, and keep it on a good basis. And you have to have a pretty good sense of humor too, I think, along with this, and in accomplishing this. But I think maybe not on that scale, but most of us have to make this transition into business, into whatever you're going to do as a Christian. I think is very important that you learn how to relate to the people of the world. And as the Apostle Paul says, if we're not going to relate to these people, we have to go out of the world. And so, because this is what we're going to be surrounded with, and we shouldn't be shocked, and we shouldn't be surprised, and we should be prepared. So it just took me a while to really get prepared in order to do that.